Morning to Luke.
Right, so I'll go and sit down there. So
Cool.
you got, 10. We've got a little bit of flexibility because we're a
Right.
speaker down. But you're our next speaker. So David Hayes from University
How do I
Centre.
change the slides? Is there a particular?
You just press the.
just
the
primitive.
arrow.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Thank you
thanks.
very much. Yeah. Okay. Hi everybody. All good. I was just thinking there, Scott, about convict criminology.
Yeah.
Yourself perhaps could identify as a convict criminologist, but just an aside there. Maybe chat later, but over a pint maybe.
I know Sash Dark and Andy addressed it and all that.
Cool.
So we're kind of.
No, all good. Okay, so I've come up with this for this a presentation, lightning presentation. Hopefully, I am lightning with it. But anarchising higher education. I've got this term from Ruth Kinna, who's an anarchist political philosopher, basically. Okay, and I think a lot of what I've heard today does fit the bill really for anarchist tendencies or values and principles, which you can see in higher education. Okay, in terms of practitioners. And research as well. Okay, so hopefully I'll be able to sort of sum up anarchism very quickly for us. Where's my first slide there? Okay, so basically, kind of like this kind of was born really of a discussion with some students of mine because I do teach contemporary critical criminology. I found myself a home there. Basically, it's very interdisciplinary, which is cool, which means I can kind of like do my philosophy stuff in there. But it does seem to be prevailing sort of mood of sort of like almost like nihilistic negativism, really, about the critique of dominant ideologies, discourses, research agendas. And there's a danger there, really, a sort of hazard there, really, whereby students can have this sense of negativism. And really, with anarchism sort of thing, hope is in there, concrete hope is in there, really, okay? And really, in some ways, it's a dirty term, really, sort of utopian thought, really. Utopia has got a bad name for itself, just like anarchism. Okay, but these two terms, anarchism and utopian or utopia, it can be a positive, creative thing, etc. Okay, so I've put here basically about potentially we're faced with a situation whereby there is this kind of like these totalising tendencies. Really, you've got a dominance of like neoliberal ideology, etc. in education, and we're kind of opposing that. And often critical pedagogical discourses are just kind of like diametrically opposed to those. Okay. And that can be a bit of a problem there, really, okay, in terms of changing things. Okay, so quickly moving there. So anarchists basically are very concerned about centralised authority, prevailing principles of authority, hierarchy. All forms of hierarchy will be addressed by anarchists, okay, and domination as well. So by hierarchy, it would be class, etc., race, ethnicity, sexuality, gender, etc. Okay. All those are kind of like there to be kind of like critiqued by anarchism. Anarchists, of course, have got a pretty dim view of the state. As I'm going to go on to show today, really, there's a lot in common with political liberalism or liberal thought and anarchism. Just get rid of the liberal state and keep the liberal values, and very similar, really, to anarchism. Anarchism is like the inheritor, really, of the great liberal tradition in many ways. Okay, something that people don't actually know. They tend to associate anarchism with disorder, destruction, etc., violence, or whatever sort of thing. It's got a very sort of pejorative sense to it, the term anarchism. Okay, but obviously, powerful groups in society we're aiming at here, state, government, and corporations. But at the same time, it's allied with a vision of transformative social justice, which has come across today, largely speaking. Okay. Also, I would say with anarchism, it does regard knowledge as having a social character. Often things are individualized, education, okay, and it is a critique of the institutional boundaries, really, and the boundaries of knowledge in institutions, basically, okay. So it is really just not critiquing, but also kind of like suggesting alternatives as well, and exploring the prospects of alternatives. So basically, kind of like I would say again, there's a danger of becoming fatalistic, and this dichotomy between reform and radical change can be a real problem. Okay, so really, I mean, these terms were used today in different contexts, but anarchism is about developing strategies, objectives, goals, etc. They can have immediate effects, really. You can make immediate change and see some kind of tangible change there, really, while at the same time being guided by a vision of an alternative society and the idea that another world is possible. Okay, and it really is about awakening the social instinct. So much is about in education is about asocial individualism. This is about seeing human beings fundamentally as social, okay? and knowledge as being a social thing. And I think kind of like, I think it was Jonathan before was saying, and I'll defer to my notes here a little bit, I was quite struck by the fact he was talking about really referring to the fundamental social character of knowledge. I would say that sort of neoliberal institutions are quite parasitic upon the life world, the educational life world, really, where, you know, basically knowledge is produced and reproduced intersubjectively, okay, and communally. Okay, so I think that the concept of being with is quite important there. It just strikes me as being a good one. It's about co-being, co-production of knowledge, co-presence, etc. That's how we generate knowledge, learning, and ethics. Okay, so I think social anarchists will be all about basically seeing learners as involved in dialogical interaction, relationality, and benevolent social cooperation. All these things that are happening in day-to-day educational life world, really. Okay, all right, so moving on slightly there, and again I would say some quotes here, and that's just so many things up to some extent there. Okay, hopes and tactical objectives, that's just a quote there that I've chucked in. I'll move on from that a little bit, okay, because I've got like 7 minutes or whatever. So this notion of utopian mentalities is quite important. I would say that anarchists are not just kind of like critiquing liberalism. They're prepared to sort of like see that liberal values have something to offer, but at the same time having this vision of social justice. Okay. Now there is obviously what we're living amongst these days really is a conservative counter-utopia, and that will consist of new right ideology, neoliberalism, and the kind of like sort of moral or social conservatism which we have going on in the culture wars, etc. Okay, which we're all contending with really in higher education institutions. So really what we're saying here with Mannheim would say basically what anarchism and liberalism share in common is this kind of idea that things are indeterminate, really. Okay, the sense of indeterminism is very important, and obviously for liberals it's somewhat different there in terms of their utopia, sort of the liberal ideas that we can see from the past and the spreading the Enlightenment ideas throughout society as an historical force, the real belief in ideas as being an historical kind of driver, okay, of change, etc. Now this quote here is particularly kind of pertinent and relevant. This is a Marxist philosopher here, an ugly word for anarchist, very contentious, Marxism versus anarchism. But someone like Ernst Bloch there would agree with Chomsky, Noam Chomsky there, very famous contemporary anarchist. Basically, the true inheritor of the classic liberal tradition of the Enlightenment, it campaigns for a system that protects liberal rights. And I would say that liberal rights are increasingly endangered, really, the human rights, etc., in today's society. Okay, so you have to defend these and defend liberal institutions, while at the same time working towards structural change and wider social justice. So this is a fantastic quote here, which is very anarchist in spirit, really. The human dignity, that means basically addressing like not just exploitation of human beings and institutions, but also human degradation. It's not possible without economic liberation, and this liberation is not possible at the cause of human rights. So those two things should come hand in hand. And the whole anarchist kind of project, really, as a political project, is about, you know, having these two things in tandem, really. Okay, so I'm quickly zooming along. Now, there we go, to get to the heart of it. Anarchising education. This comes from Émile Armand, okay. The idea will be, this could be a range of different institutions, really, and it avoids that familiar, potentially kind of hazardous dichotomy between revolution and reform, okay. And basically what I'm trying to say today, really, is that the means of change are left open, okay. Some traditional Marxist approaches, it'd been all very sort of like prescribed, really, in some ways. So we're saying that all institutional relationships can be anarchized in the same way they can be liberalized, okay. So you can get a liberal progressive agenda, which can liberalize things, social liberalism, but also you can anarchize things there. And I think really what that's come across today, I can see all kinds of signs and trends and tendencies and what people have been saying here. And really that's the message here, that at the same time as defending rights, we have to sort of address as well the big sort of macro problems and the kind of structural problems we've got in society, and work towards social justice, really, okay, rather than just critiquing the dominant order of things. Okay, and again, by celebrating these prevailing principles of being anti-hierarchical, questioning authority, and all forms of kind of domination, really, in society. Okay, and this final slide here really is about the origins, really, of conservative counter-utopia, quite dismissive, really. We're saying that originally, really, this mentality of conservative mentality would not be predisposed towards theorising. It's only when it's got this opposition, be it socialist, communist, or whatever, that it kind of like comes to life as such, okay? And we can see with new right conservatism, new right ideology, etc. That is kind of a counter, really, and we can see it in the culture wars against left-wing liberal thought, etc., within institutions, okay, which most of us here as practitioners would be actually defending and actually kind of like putting out there with our students, okay, and that is that. Thank you.